None of that.
Go ahead.
I'm like you right now. I'm in your class of technology.
Hi. I have a strong feeling we need to have people attend the meetings more in person. So I prepared a proposed amendment to the society regulation rules and procedures, which is what is called the bylaws. Basically, it says to be considered a full member, that's somebody who gets to vote and gets paid, gets appointments. You have to attend 50% of the meetings. 10 meetings a year, that's 5, etc. I'm sure we can work something out for somebody like Steve Marino, who's on the other side of the state, there's a blizzard. Anyway, according to the bylaws, this has to be submitted at a meeting previous to when it's voted on. So I'm handing it out now, and I'm asking the exec committee to disseminate it electronically, and we can vote on it either November or March, just to December. That's it. Oh, I'm sorry.
All right.
Great, thanks, Mark. Jim, are you taking comments, or are you just disseminating this information and then we're going to talk about it at a later date?
Well, it's your guys' meeting. I would think if people just got it, they put it aside, they can forget about it and be brought up by the next meeting or the meeting after. And they vote again. So I don't think necessarily now, unless people want to.
Yeah, so this has been, thank you, Jim, for bringing this up. In the last year before COVID, and then COVID, and the last couple of years, I too would love to bring back the robustness of our meetings. I understand that the world has changed a little bit, and I've always been trying to create opportunities to bring people in here. When I first started doing this, I was trying to get like gym sessions at the HATC and all this stuff, and to no avail. So I agree with you, Jim. It's an opportunity to bring people together a little bit more so than we were doing before. So yeah, thanks for putting that in. And I would like to kind of play around with this a little bit and figure out a way if we can get more value added to the meetings for Rocky Mountain, for sure.
So Mark, am I able to be, everybody can hear me in the room?
Yeah, pretty much.
Sure. Great. So Jim did send this to the executive committee. We've got a meeting on Thursday to talk it over. Jim, if you're okay with this, I would like to have this this voted upon, this addendum to the bylaws voted on in December, when we typically have the most the best attendance, and we can have that discussion then. Are you okay with that? Would you like to put this on pause for a month so that way we can have it?
Never worked.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, I say we be voted on to the general AGM.
Yeah, December in the AGM. Yeah.
Okay.
So speaking of, so for everybody to know and people that are on this recording.
Hey, this is Steve. Can I?
Sure, go ahead,
yeah, Steve. Go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to say one thing. Oh, I'm a little echoey. I think there's like the ability for us as an organization rules that are not necessarily amendments to the bylaws. Like there's some specific bars that need to be passed in order to have an amendment, and maybe that's the goal here, and that is the path that we should take. But we could also probably do something similarly without an actual amendment to the bylaws. So I just present that as an option that could be considered.
Awesome. Thank
Yeah, I know what you're talking
Steve.
about, Steve. I understand what you're talking about. It'd be further defining what a member in good standing is, which we basically had to come up with prior to the last meeting, or prior to the last AGM, when we were doing elections. So the standings that we had prior, going into the last AGM, was you had to be registered with us with Ref Up, and you had to be registered with us in Rugby Explorer. We had to come up with those on the fly. I don't feel comfortable in changing those prior to this coming AGM. But if that is something that we would like to change, either call it a change of the bylaws, change of the whatever, I would still like full membership to vote on it. And typically around AGM is when we kind of change those kinds of stuff. So are there any opinions on that? Mike Lawrence and Paul Johnson.
I think it's fair.
I agree. I think it's fair too.
Great.
I would like to discuss what a good percentage is. I mean, 5
Sure.
out of 10 means great, but for people like Charlie Jones, Steve Marino, Phil Schwan, Noah Lalonde, it is a little tough to. So maybe we could increase some of the activities and maybe increase fitness testing or something else to like increase your chances to come instead of just 5 out of 10 meetings. So I don't know what that would be like, but if you could attend 50% of something or 40% of something, including quarterly fitness tests or law tests or something else like that, it would be something to benefit the society. Jim, you have your hand up?
Past. Gotta take the level 1 ref course, become a member of the society, and attend 50% of the meeting. I think me, if they're gonna require bad boy, we ought to attend. That was the rationale for that.
That's fair.
Mark, you're gonna have to reiterate what Jim said. I couldn't hear it, and I've got headphones in.
Jim was saying that back in the day when there was a disciplinary matter of a abusive player or coach, that part of the sanction would be attend level 1 referee and attend 50%. So that number came kind of from that historical data, that if we did have a Craig Tarr who abused Dan Hattrip, he had to referee and attend 50% of the meetings and take the level 1. It's our best recruiting tool, to be honest with you.
Sure. Yeah, so I understand abusing Dan Hattrip was the best way into the referee society. So yeah, I plan on having that conversation with the executive committee on how to better hone this. But Jim, thank you for presenting this information to the society, and definitely are going to take it into account, especially because we are trying to put on a better learning tool for some people. And realizing that our members that are not in the greater Denver area becomes an issue. Mark, sorry.
Kind of speaking upon bolstering our membership and bolstering our organization. I don't know how many people were on the local referee organizational developmental call last week. It was the all referees call where the RLC members and had 6 or 7 different topics. And one thing that stood out for me in memory is USA Rugby has about 1,000 referees. So if you thin slice the referee societies or organizations or members, and they took a fairly big survey for match official abuse, and it is great that USA Rugby and Jamie McGregor are putting pieces in place to handle match official abuse. But one of the things that stood out for me on that survey is that out of the 1,000 members, 42% said they would take a willing and active role in the societal leadership, to where I was gobsmacked at that number. So 420 referees out there want to take a better approach to being more involved in the organization. And the only reason I'm saying this is we have our AGM coming up in 2 months. And it's always kind of been like, okay, who are the 3 people that are going to do some stuff? Now, I can't say enough about the activities and wherewithal of and desires to improve this organization that Mike Lawrence and Paul Johnson have put forth. But like, we need everyone's help to make this organization better. So just kind of think about that. Of like what you can offer, what you can bring to the table, that we can create committees, we can create roles for everyone. And like I said, it takes a village to make this organization great. And we just went through a cycle of registration and clear out of ref up to get rid of like the 150 names that are in ref up that I myself can identify, but we do need a serious development officer who's going to take an account of everything the referee is doing. Probably need to revisit a high performance development officer, and we definitely need a really active new referee development officer, as well as someone kind of frontlining and taking in charge of coaches. And we just put a CMO together in Aspen last year, and we still only have 3 or 4 people doing CMO. So like, let's like, COVID's over. We're coming out of, we're in full standing. We have full schedules. We have a couple of referees doing stuff, but let's really get this organization back up. It should be. That's my soap.
Great, thanks, Mark. And a lot of that goes for people that are, maybe you're slightly unhappy with the direction that the referee society is going. That there's only so much that four people can do to move the society. There's a lot of work that gets done in the background that you might not see. A lot of emailing, a lot of that kind of stuff. So between now and November 7th, which is our next meeting, have a thought, have an idea of what you want to do to help develop the society. You don't have, this does not need to be an elected position. The 3 elected positions are the chair, recruiting, and ops. The other positions are appointed, and for the most part, it's, are you interested? Yes, no. What are you interested in? Great, go ahead and do it. So if you have a hankering to be a good development officer, if you have, we can slot you in there. If you want to get to know the reins of the chair, there's a vice chair position. If you really want to help develop, or if you want to help recruit, Mike Lawrenson would love to have some help there too, especially in the terms of spell check for the word recruiting. So we're trying to do some things. We're trying to be active, but it takes a village, and right now it really kind of seems to be a handful of people everybody else just wants to critique. So I don't want to turn this into a negative thing, but please, if you find some interest, then let me know. We can do it as short of a term as you would like. Mark, are there any questions in the area? Otherwise, you can move on.
Nope, we're good.
Great. Okay, so the one administrative thing that I would like to take care of, and then we're going to move on to our presentations. So referee abuse. It is, as we're getting into the heart of the season, October is very, very big. We're starting to see an uptick in referee abuse when it comes to from coaches in particular. So I'm here just to reiterate what the process is. We have people that follow the process, that have already followed the process. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that we have your back. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to fill out your match report. That is through Ref Up. Fill out the match report, get it submitted. That allows you to get paid too. The follow-up thing is then you send an email giving as much detail as possible with what your complaint is. So if that means that a coach approached you after the match and gave you a tongue lashing, if that means that they touched you afterwards without your consent, if that means that they sent you threatening emails or text messages, you're to screenshot those, forward it on, make sure that it gets to the executive committee. That is the chair, that is the recruiting, that is ops. We look at all of that stuff and we determine how it's going to be handled. Yes, Mark.
No, I'm pointing at Jim to check his email.
Okay. So we will then get it to the proper authorities. That includes if it's an NCR match, or Rocky Mountain Rugby, or Rugby Colorado. Those are the three sandboxes that we play in, that we don't delineate how it handles. All those people have their DC and all that kind of stuff. We have your back. And how that gets handled is we'll follow it through. I don't forget those types of things. So the only way that I can't help you is if you don't tell me. So with that in mind, if anybody has anything in particular, let me know. Otherwise, we can move on to a different topic. I wouldn't say a more positive topic, just different. Seeing none. Mark, go ahead.
I just kind of want to talk about just something I'm noticing a little with trends in refereeing right now. Obviously, the World Cup is going on, and we can hear the referees, and hopefully, we're writing down a lot of their witty dialogue. Of course, we're not graced with the presence of Nigel Owens anymore, but Wayne Barnes and Luke Pierce is giving us some great quips. One yesterday I found kind of interesting, and if I had youth and knees, I would use it. But the poacher is there in a legal position, and tackler's not rolled, and it's just like Luke Pierce wrote that, like, I allow the poach, but there's a man in the road, blocking the ball coming out or blocking the arriving players. I thought that was interesting. But I am seeing a lot of technical refereeing going on nationwide, and some of our own referees. So technical refereeing is kind of like, yes, there's infringement. Yes, I absolutely saw you did not roll away, but the game doesn't really need it. So the penalty counts are up in the 30s and 40s right now. And I reviewed a match today where it was just not a fun match to watch, and you weren't creating a spectacle. It's something we really tried hard this Aspen to kind of promote, of like free flowing be, and kind of like what is the desired outcome of this game. Fast paced ball out rugby, tackler rolling away, a good competition, but we're kind of allowing the attack to kind of win their own ball. And it's just like yeah, that's a penalty for sure. I'm going to call it, or I cannot call it, and just kind of see how things play out, and just kind of absorb the pressure of that call, and maybe just make a decision like, I'm going to play away from that. Yes, it's kind of side entry, but maybe that person didn't really affect the outcome of the ball getting produced, or maybe that person didn't really really have a good like hands on the ball and earn that turnover. And it's just kind of something to think about, is just like, how is this call going to benefit the game? Is it truly spoiling a contest, or is like, yep, I got you, I'm a great ref, I caught you on that, and we're gonna penalize it? Or is it something we can like, okay, yeah, I got that, but let's just see how this shapes out, and just kind of have a think of like the game in 20 minutes. Like, what do we want this game to be? How are we going to create an environment for the athletes to showcase their skills, but not have such kind of effect on the game where it's just whistle after whistle and your 30 to 40 penalties in the game? Just kind of think about like your referee philosophy. What is it you want to achieve when you go out there? Do you want a lot of scoring, kind of lead changes back and forth? Do you want open contests? Do you want perfect scrums, perfect structures? Just think about your philosophy of what you would like to have an effect on the game, and then cater your refereeing to that philosophy. If you'd like to talk more on this, feel free to give me a call at any time, and we'll talk about like what a referee philosophy is. But just think about like what you want it to be, what you want the game to be after the 80 minutes. And then how can you shape your refereeing to that game? Joe, you have a question? Yeah. So Joe was just talking about materiality and whatnot. Yes, it's an infringement, but did that really affect the play? Can we get away with it? Can I manage that person in downtime? I will say over again, this is the hardest sport in the world to referee. And thank you all for trying to do it. And to do it well takes enormous amount of discipline, thinking, fitness, law knowledge, all of the things, and a lot of luck. So again, thank you.
The part that I would add to that from Mark is the thing that you don't make the question of, did that hurt, is foul play. It is, oh, did that hurt the player? Did that not hurt the player? Anything in between. You definitely, you call your foul play, and that should be almost like a different pot in which you withdraw the ability to call a penalty out of.
It's a great question. Get foul play out of the game. Get it out early. Come down hard on it. Remove it. All right. On that positive note, Brendan, you ready to go? I'm going to share my screen here. And I have Brendan driving it.
I'll take this. All right. Your screen share. Let me turn this into a slideshow. Okay, so what I'm going to share today is a little bit about player, and kind of what everyone led into right now is player engagement management. I'll talk mostly about how Aspen was, like talk a little bit more in depth about that. I had a specific incident / match that I'm going to cover as well that was pretty high pressure, high temperature, and resulted in a red card for some silly business. So we'll talk about that one as well. If anybody has any questions during this, you can chime in, whatever slide. You don't have to wait till the end, just open discussion. I always like to leave with some literature references. If you're familiar, hopefully you are familiar with the game management guidelines. Section 7, Section 8 will touch a little bit on stuff that I'm talking about. And then, of course, foul play is always going to be a part of this conversation. So overall, going to talk about Aspen, Ruggerfest with the coaching structure, focal points that we were given. We go into communication, body language, verbal communication. What are the opportune moments in your match to have these discussions, these communications? I want to talk definitely about high temperature, stressful matches. Those definitely come up from time to time. I'm going to talk very briefly on dealing with non-player issues. We kind of talked about that a little bit at the beginning of this meeting. And then my Aspen match, I'm going to go through that. All right, so during Aspen, the main focus that I felt like it was a little bit different coaching. We had a much more heavy focus on managing, engaging players, and as Mark said about context, like how are we adding value to the match? What is the context of the match? What is needed there? That management, we can all study the law book and the game management guidelines, and we can get pretty spot on with that. But as far as management, that's the higher level tool that you use to apply our laws effectively and get a better outcome of the match you want. Process was a big focus. We reiterated process, and that's focusing on those areas in our game that do have a process. We have a process for scrums, crouch, bind, set. We look at the stability, lineouts, breakdowns. There's a process to the game, and we follow those, and those help us get the results that we want. In context, as Mark said before, too, what does the match need? And I'm going to talk more on just engaging and communication. So every time you speak, you're either adding or subtracting value from the relationship, from the match. So think about what you're saying, and are you adding or subtracting value to your game? How do I go? There we go. All right. So body language plays a very big deal in how we're communicating, whether it's on or off the field. Facial expressions. If we get into tough situations, if you're sad or frustrated with how the match is going, believe it or not, you are definitely, it can be seen from the sidelines, from coaches, from other players, from the crowd, or if you're happy or confident with what you're doing. Good posture, eye contact, not staring at the ground, not kind of collapsing into a shell. So keeping positive even in those stressful situations will mean a lot. Talking to players, this was kind of a big one that it seems so minuscule, but has been positive for me since Aspen, is just even the direction of talking to players. You can be face to face with a player or a captain and having a conversation, and it feels very punitive. Or if you just step open shoulder to shoulder, it feels more of a conversation. As Scott Green, who is one of our coaches this up at Aspen, he said it's a very easy, when you're face to face, you are telling a player that you have a problem versus opening up and we have a problem. This is the issue that the game is having. So body language alone, your verbal communication can be received differently. This was a big one for me too. Players like in your space when you're having to talk to them, either in downtime or in during a captain's chat or something. One, try to bring in only the necessary players that need to be there. The captain, offending player, that should pretty much be that circle. The stature of you as a referee. Larger referees can sometimes appear to be, you have a Joe Burpo or a Mike Lawrenson who are big and tall, and they can appear to be overbearing sometimes with their communication in that circle. For me and Katie, smaller referees, we are refereeing large human beings, and you have to learn how to own your space and to not let them overwhelm you. And it's a little bit of a different challenge so just even thinking about your stature as a referee. So for verbal communication, there's a bunch of different opportunities, and this is, I feel like we kind of talk about like almost like a spectrum of I'm talking too much or I'm not talking enough. I would like to probably more focus on the value of what's being said, and that was the focus on Aspen. Was are you adding value or are you subtracting value? So there's different opportunities in live play. This is your game management to help facilitate players out of those penalties to get that penalty count down. Simple, clear, and concise. If it was not a knock on and everyone's confused, backwards play on, or if a tackle player ball carrier gets up, not held, step back to push offside. So little communications like that can help, can go a long way. Penalty kick, you don't have to over explain it, just basics, whistle, penalty, free kick, signal it, and color, number, offense, blue, 5, roll away. And where this is, of course, when penalties happen, players, this is your opportunity to set your standards. A lot of players will start to chat back to you, okay, blue 5, rolling away, and then they'll ask you about the side entry or the not releasing or the whatever. It's your option there to either open that line of communication, and it can be in a start to cause a snowball effect, or just repeat your penalty kick, repeat what you just said. Oh, sir, ma'am, the side entry, the knock on, blue 5, roll away. And they're going to move on. Don't over explain. You don't need to say a lot. The penalty was the issue there. Don't be condescending either. Either one of those can have a negative effect on that relationship with the players in the game. So very important statement. You're either adding or subtracting value. You can pause and think about what you're going to say before you say it. Just take a moment and see if it's going to actually add to the game and the end results are the results that you want. Opportune moments. So use downtime for management opportunities. So optimal moments are lineouts, scrums, after conversion kick, walking back to midfield. Those are good those are set pieces. Those are cool down moments, and you can have just a quick chat with a player that, hey, you were a little from the side, make sure you're coming through the gate, or I saw the marginal whatever it was penalty, roll away quicker, quick down, you don't have to make a big ordeal of it. Non-optimals, so after a try, kind of the same situation like a penalty kick, the defense is not going to be receptive to your instructions or what you're telling them. They're already frustrated. They just got scored on. They're already down. That's not an opportune moment to have a discussion with. The penalties that resulted in this or the issue that the only way they're going to be happy is if you take that try away. So if you accept that conversation from those players, say after that try, they're not going to be happy because the try is still going to stand. You're going to end up in a back and forth conversation, and the only way you're going to get out of that is to just be dismissive and say try stands back on the goal line, and it's negative relationship there. So what we were recommended, just award the try, follow the mark of the ball and get back to the area that you need to be at to see the conversion. If a player is kind of adamant, a good statement that you can use if they're being too adamant is, I'll come find you. I'll come find you or I'll come find you after the conversion. And sometimes they'll even forget that they wanted to talk to you. They're just frustrated because they just got scored on. Okay. So what's that? That's Tropical Sevens, man. So yeah, this is my picture example right here. You can see Mark awarded a try. This player is absolutely frustrated with this. Do you think he wants to hear what Mark has to say? No. Move away, let it be. Penalty kicks and free kicks are also opportunities. So the defense will sometimes try to slow down the game and have a chat with you. What was the issue? Get them back. Don't let them take control of it. Like I said, repeating the penalty kick, free kick, it's good enough.
Mark, I can't believe that you allowed that player to wear those glasses. He's all of 8. Come on.
This is one of my favorite rugby pictures that exists in the world, by the way. It is a beautiful moment.
There's a great story behind that picture.
Players will be frustrated. This is the example. Do not talk to them afterwards. Good. All right. High temperature, stressful situation. Had that match that just doesn't feel comfortable. Something's wrong, right? Sometimes it's just a higher caliber, faster paced match. You get that opportunity to be above the level that or to get that opportunity at the level that you want to be at. Sometimes it's a rivalry match that can be pretty contested. Of course, some teams just come with a culture and players can come with an attitude. You can't control that. Personal factors, your own mindset, external factors. It's really, I know there's a saying like, leave whatever, when you're at work, like leave the outside stuff at home. It's impossible. That stuff always carries with you. So if you're not in the right mindset, that can affect you. Some warning signs that happen in a match, right? Players' frustration, scuffles, a lot of chatter, whether it's to you, you have 30 refs on the field all of a sudden asking about every single call you've made, or chatter to each other. They're starting to get a little chippy. And just the warning sign of yourself. Are you stressed? Are you frustrated? Do you feel like you are losing control of the players in the match? Those are all warning signs. So I'm going to open up a little bit of a feedback from you all are here. So there's some tools that we can use that are pretty clear cut for us as referees when we get into those high temperature, stressful situations. What are some tools that you use as a referee when you feel like the situation is stressful and you're trying to calm down the situation? Yeah. 2 deep breaths. That's good. 2 deep breaths. Yeah, that's great. Focus. That's on yourself. Mindset. Anyone else?
One thing that I've been told was snap. Like you can snap your either watch band or the rubber bands. You can snap it, and that kind of can focus you.
Okay, so snap. You have a little trigger point. Jim had one.
One of the things I used to do to get myself, so before the game, think of a joke, think of the punchline, and think of one word, punch. Things got stressed in the game. I keep that word to myself. A little bit of smile, relax, just a little bit. Different in my team.
I like that. I like those. Those are good. So
One thing I've been able to, it's a luxury thing to have like some good ARing here in Rocky Mountain, and we are all here to support each other. We can also like kind of relieve that pressure if we feel like the referee's under the pump a little bit, and just create a little joke or say, hey, listen, it's not personal, or just relax. Or I can't tell you how many times Steve Gore has saved my bacon on the touchline to making me laugh, and just to kind of enjoy the match. Like if you're not enjoying it, then why are we doing it? So let's just enjoy the match and think about like this should be fun.
yes.
One other thing, this section, Brandon, is about tools to use. One of the things I way to develop tools. Absolutely more experience you have. For instance, it'll happen. Well, you can poorly think about it afterwards. Rep.
Mm.
Watch games. No excuse for experience. Go to driving school, get a driver's license, 16. Got to drive for 5, 6, 7 years before you figured out what to do with all the
Yeah. Awesome. I agree.
Brandon, can you please repeat that?
So, repeat what Jim said?
Yes.
Jim basically just wanted to reiterate like the best tool that you can use is like your overall just your commitment to learning the game of rugby. Ref it, AR it, watch it live, watch matches, attend matches. Like the more you see rugby, the better you're going to be equipped to handle those situations, and you can see how other people handle them. So I agree with that. Okay, so those are all good. I've listed a few myself. So one thing I like to do when it gets high tempered and stressful is to try to slow the game down myself. I can do that at set pieces, line out scrums, reset them. Even if there wasn't a problem, just reset them. Crouch, bind, reset. Give them an extra 30 seconds to cool down, right? That's a good cool down time. Bring players back to the mark if they're doing a quick tap. Just make sure that they're and the defense can't get back. We don't want to like take away a dominant side, but if it's a good situation where you can just say, hey, the mark's actually right, take him back, slow it down. Talk to the captains. I have this last, and I have it with stars because I want to note to everybody that when you talk to the captains, it's a really big optic for players in the crowd, and that's where the focal point is now on you, and usually the game's not. So here we are discussing that there is a behavior issue or a trend and it needs to be resolved. And now after this situation, after this optic right here, we are expecting further action from the crowd, from players if something else happens. So that is it's a big statement to do that conversation. For me, I like to include it in the pre-match chat so that's not anything a surprise for the captains. I say basically, you know, conversation between us three. If your players want to have any questions, go through you first, and I'll go through you as well. And I let them know that if at any time I have to stop the match, that's me asking you for help to resolve an issue. Because if I have to stop the match again, then I'll have to take further action, so that they know that I've already stopped the match. We've had this conversation. They know what this means. A big thing you have to do when these stressful situations happen is you need to start troubleshooting the match yourself. Where's the problem? Where's the issue? Am I missing foul play? Are the scrums unstable? Is there no space for offsides? Is my tackle sequence proper? Right? So you need to troubleshoot where that is happening. I have a belief that most players they're not out there to cause trouble. They're out there to have fun. We're out there to do the same, to have fun. They just want to have a match that is fairly adjudicated, and they want to be treated with balance. So you need to troubleshoot the match. Take those downtime moments for yourself at scrums, lineouts, after conversion. Check in with yourself. What's going on with the game? What's the penalty count looking like? Where are the scrums stable? Is foul play an issue? Check in with yourself throughout the game. It helps a lot. Have a plan. So that's what everybody here talked about. What is your plan when things start to go wrong? 2 deep breaths. I'm thinking of a joke. As Joe said, I'm snapping myself back into reality. So if you already have that parachute, that safety plan for when things go wrong, you're not going to be left in chaos. You're going to realize that you have an issue. You have a backup plan, an E button. You're able to troubleshoot. You can fix the issue. Any questions? This is kind of like the main focus of what I wanted to get to, was the high temperature, stressful situations.
Brandon, I'm just going to read something from Steve Gore as he departs. It was just depending on the situation, can be helpful to also communicate when players have done something correctly. If you've asked the team to drive straight at scrums, then they do, say, hey, good, thanks, and tell them it was good. So positive reinforcement is also as important as corrective action.
Yeah,
thanks,
that's
Steve.
actually that's a really good point. I totally left that out on this presentation, but yeah, especially when going back to the live verbal to step back and then they weren't offside anymore. You can tell, yeah, good job. Like just positive reinforcement is very helpful as well. I agree. I don't want to read too far into this one. I don't think it's too heavy of focus right now, but there is tools for non-player management. If you're having issues with coaches, an unruly touch judge, a crowd member that is just really being belligerent. If you have the game management guidelines, this is a direct copy and paste for that. To be very clear, you can't red or yellow card anybody who's not an active player on the field. So don't issue a red or yellow card to a coach or to a person outside of there. It's not going to work. Do they know that? Probably not, but yes, absolutely. You have the right to manage them out of, usually, I mean, you have people that are there to help you resolve the situation. If it's a crowd member, if it's an assistant coach or something, like use the captain that's acting appropriately, use the coach that's acting appropriately, use them to help you with the situation. Just don't overmanage it. Warn them once. If they can't handle it, tell them that they need to get rid of the person. If it's a coach, take that into context. If you're in a women's match, you could probably ask the captain to help you out. If you're at a high school match, don't ask the captain to go tell their 40-year-old adult to manage them. Just go talk to the coach, you know. So context on that as well.
You can't control the behaviors of the spectators and coaches, but what you can control is when you are going to restart the match. So I'm not going to restart play until that person leaves the playing enclosure. Or I'm not going to continue this match until that person is removed off the ground. So we can sit around here and I'll earn my $150, but we're not going to play rugby until that person is gone for my own safety.
He says he has used this tactic on funny. But I think are you talking about me on you, Mike? Mike says I've
No.
used this.
No, Steve Gore.
Oh, okay. I was like, I don't think that was me, man. But that's funny. All right. Okay, so
You just give me a card.
yeah, that's the easier way. All right, so now the fun story. So my match up in Aspen, this was, I think, my second match of the tournament. It was in pool play for the men's open. This is Utah Provo versus Denver Water Dogs. Context, first round of pool play, early morning, beautiful day, no issues. It's the first game these teams are going into. Just for appearance, Utah, they are a big and broad. They are a big team. Dogs, we know them, pretty familiar with them in Denver. They're athletic, a little bit smaller than Utah. There was no clues or signs beforehand. There wasn't any like boasting coming from Utah or any team taunting, any hints of planned headhunting or anything like that beforehand. Everything looked okay. The match starts. It's very fast paced. It's very aggressive, big hits, contact. Immediately issues with offsides. I play a couple of advantages, have like one penalty kick or two, and this is an offside issue with Utah as Water Dogs are attacking. So probably a little soft on those issues. I think this is like 15 minutes into the match. We're still in the first half. We were playing 20 halves. Then we have our red card scenario. So Water Dogs are attacking about 5 meters from Provo's goal line. We have the offside issue. Penalty kick advantage for offside. Water Dogs. Breakdown, offsides, clearly on the pillar, takes out the scrum half. I award below the penalty, award the penalty kick. Then we're into our scuffle where there's at least 8 bodies in there. Everyone's grabbing each other by the chest and having a word with each other, I would say. Me and the AR watching the situation happen. It's really nothing until Utah 13 clearly headbutts the Dogs player in the face, right in the nose, clear contact. Very lucky that was surprisingly the end to that situation. There was no retaliation. Everybody separated it. And then Denver Water Dogs didn't really feed into that. Time off, separated the players, talked to the AR. We discussed that we both saw the same issue. Clearly, it was 13 headbutt to the face. That's a red card. I will note letter C. After this situation, my stress level is through the roof right now. I am already having a difficult match with this offside issue. Now we're having players having scuffles, and then we have a red card situation. So I call the captain over with the offending player. And of course, he's accompanied by 3 other players that don't need to be in that circle with me. So this is a picture of me with the Utah players and my facial expression during that conversation. I am 5'9". They're all at least 6'20", 300 pounds. And yeah, I am not taking ownership of my space. There's too many players there. And then I'm flustered. I'm over communicating. I discussed that there were 2 penalty kicks, one for advantage for offside, and then finally the offside. And then I say, here is the red card for the headbutt. So all that needed to be discussed was there was a headbutt, red card. I opened conversation for now we're going to talk about everything that happened there. And now they're asking about everything that happened there. So after I issued the red card, they were asking 20 other questions. It took us about 15 seconds to separate completely and get back to playing rugby. And because I didn't use the tools that I needed to, the root cause of all of this at least I would say, is that offside and space was an issue from the very beginning. And I was just doing advantages and not really penalizing as needed. That was a big issue. And then there was also an issue with them attacking off feet at ruck, probably more yellow card situations. So my solutions should have been from the beginning to increase my work rate, get in a better position so I could push the defense back, award penalties appropriately, probably yellow card. And with quicker penalties, higher work rate, yellow card. I'm not saying that this could have been completely avoided, but we might have been just at a yellow card instead of a red card for the game, right? My body language was pretty bad. I was showing a lot of stress. I was showing a lot of frustration. It was very obvious. I discussed with my coach the whole scenario afterwards. And it was tough. So I think that, for full context, this team was very difficult to deal with throughout the weekend. They played one more match. They lost. They were issued 2 yellow cards. On the second yellow card, a player ripped the yellow card out of the referee's hands and threw it on the ground. Threw to him and walked away from that. That's a red card situation, by the way, if that ever happens to you. And they abandoned the tournament after that game. So they were difficult players nonetheless, but I would like to just lay this out for you that in hindsight, yes, with all the new tools that I have in my toolbox and with everything we discussed, I would have handled this a lot differently. And it all comes back to process, right? My solution was I have control of my work rate and I could have gotten in a better position. I could have managed and blown penalties earlier and yellow carding dangerous off feet. So if I would have taken care of the problems ahead of time and they were all rugby problems, then I wouldn't have had a red. I possibly couldn't have had a red card. I'm evaluating fairly. It was yeah. Yes.
Brandon,
Yes.
you're going to have to repeat everything that's being said.
I got you. Yeah. So repeating what Dale just said. So the onus is on, yes, these are difficult players to manage, but the onus is on the players to play within the laws of the game. I agree with that. And he says that it sounds like Utah came there with like a little chip on their shoulder to just start some trouble, arguably yes or no. And the onus is on the players to play within the laws, but it is on us to adjudicate it properly, which is where I fell short early in that. We're within the first 5 or 7 minutes with but being more stern with offside and probably issuing a yellow card for flying off their feet on attacking, which was what the next referee in the next match issued yellow cards because he saw the issue beforehand. He was able to anticipate that happening, that it's possible that the temperature could have cooled down a little bit, but yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, no, this was probably one of the biggest learning situations. Yes. And then even honestly, before Aspen, I probably didn't have a toolbox of like checking in and like my emergency parachute button when things are going wrong. Like I just kind of would wear my emotions on my face, and then the game got I was out of control as the game was out of control. So
Brandon, can you repeat that again, please? You got to
yes.
repeat when people comment.
Oh, okay. So the comment was, oh yeah, sorry, no. That even looking back at this, that there's a lot that we see in hindsight what could have been done, and talking about how to manage those high pressure situations. I thought I had a toolbox of things to do appropriately. Really, I really just used to think of like captains and figuring out what I know I was troubleshooting to figure it out, what the problems were with my match, but now it's like very it's second nature in my mind a little bit more now. So troubleshooting and working hard at the issues early on. So that's what people say. A lot of talking, or when we talk about matches, we talk about setting the standards, and that can be with your verbal standards, your communication standards, your penalties, all that. That is all a part of a big umbrella of setting standards. So yeah, it's a big learning opportunity for me, and came away with a lot of information on management. That is my story
I think that
of my match, but then hopefully you all were able to get some good.
no, I think that you know, it's okay when matches go badly as long as we learn from them. If a match goes badly and you just go, match went badly, and then you walk away, that's where we have a hard time accepting that.
Yeah. Cool. So hopefully you can take something away from this for better management, thinking of the process, thinking of adding value to the game. Whether it's not about volume of what I hear a lot of I'm speaking too much and speaking too little. Just think about the value that you're and what you're saying. So cool. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Brandon. So with that presentation, Mark, do we have an outdoor portion of?
No, it's raining out.
Not in Nevada, it ain't.
Well, we're not in Nevada.
So great.
But if anyone wants to be willing to go to Utah, there's a nice bunch of some Polynesian players to go referee. We can arrange that for you, so you can get that learning experience.
Yeah, we can all have
We can send
people
you over there.
volunteer. Don't
Yeah,
all
let's
raise your
go.
hands at once.
Travel through Bryce Canyon, go through Moab, and then referee some rugby. Then
Okay, so topics, just a reiteration. Thanks, Mike Lawrenson. How do I stop him from doing this? So we've got, please report ref abuse. Please make sure that you get contacted by referee by your team 72 hours in advance. Please have a good time. We've got matches available for all. So if you're available, please check ref up. They're available. And then if you would like to be part of management in coming into the next period of time, that is also available. We have to have nominations by the end of the meeting, the next meeting. So all that will have to, you'll have to have that by end of business or end of the day. We'll call it midnight on 11/7. And we will designate a person to receive all changes to bylaws as well as nominations to chair, ops, and recruiting. Paul Johnston, what do you got?
Well, you've already mentioned about the confirmations. I'm not gonna harp on that. Everyone's been good about that. Again, try to get it to me by Thursday night, Friday morning at the latest, not Friday night, please. There are a lot of high school matches, and regardless of how much I harp on Rugby Colorado not to do this all on Saturdays, the fact remains that on any given Saturday right now, we have anywhere between 5 and 12 referee spots open on Saturdays for different Rugby Colorado opportunities. If you see high school sevens, that should take precedence over the try, because they can fill in try stuff with coaches and parents and even their own try referees for that. But the high school sevens generally does require at least some kind of certified referee. You're talking sophomores, juniors, seniors in high school versus, upwards of a 14-year-old at the try stuff. So it's a different level of rugby. I know that, sometimes proximity, if you live across the street from City Park, it's closer and that's all well and good. But if it's in Highlands Ranch versus City Park, I'd prefer, let's fill those spots up. Especially if you're a newer referee. We really need to kind of help them out. Or even if you're not a newer referee, even if you're a level 5 or 6 referee and you didn't get that D1A game or the Water Dogs game, go help out younger referees at these things. There's 4 or 5 of them. There's lots of opportunities for coaching. There's lots of opportunities to show, parents and future players that, there are good, there are refs available and good refs available out there. So it's really all I want to say. But we're not really doing them a good service by not providing referees. And I know right now there's 26 to 27 spots open and maybe 24 referees available, especially with the World Cup and everyone out in France. So, or a lot of people out in France or whatever. But I'm just, we're sending email reminders out, and I appreciate those that have put their hand up and gone to that. But if you're looking at getting a game, then that should be kind of priority order.
For sure. And finally, speaking of the community aspect of this, this Saturday, we have a bunch of matches at Infinity Park Turf, starting at 10 o'clock, ending with a match that kicks off at 6 o'clock. So if you've got availability or you're interested in just hanging out with the crew, we will have the tent set up there. And finally, Mark, did you have something?
So we'll have a tent, we'll have refreshments, and we'll have pickleball for Mike Lawrence if he ever chooses to show his face.
I'm busy.
I know you are. I know.
Yeah, and
Fucking
then the final part on that is that I'm going to be running the Bronco myself at Infinity Park Turf on next Wednesday, so the 11th, I think it is. I don't know. Next Wednesday, I'll be running it at 5 p.m. So if anybody is interested in running, I'll be doing it. Otherwise, thanks everybody for the meeting.
They win the D when it.
Okay. All right. Thanks
I'll
everybody.
play pickleball if Mark runs the Bronco.
I'll run the Bronco.
I'll bring the calendar to time Mark. All right.
Here we
Thanks,
go.
buddy.